He walked in wearing a dusty janitor uniform. No fancy watch, no suit, just work boots and a quiet smile. The manager looked him up and down and said, "Sir, this isn't a showroom for browsing." But the moment he saw the name on the check, the color drained from his face. What happened next made the entire dealership freeze in shock. It was a quiet Wednesday morning when Malcolm, a 54-year-old janitor, walked into one of the city's most elite car dealerships. Grease still stained his hands, his uniform was wrinkled. But his eyes? Calm, focused. He had just finished an overnight shift cleaning city offices, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Malcolm believed in earning everything. As he walked past the glass doors, heads turned. The receptionist glanced up and gave a hesitant smile. But the sales manager, Rick, immediately stepped in. "Sir," he said, blocking Malcolm's path, "we have a pre-owned section in the back. These models start at $200,000. "I'm aware," Malcolm replied, polite but firm. Rick laughed. "Right, look, I don't want to embarrass you. These vehicles are appointment only. Maybe come back when you've got a little more to work with." People in the showroom began watching. One man even smirked. But Malcolm didn't raise his voice. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded cashier's check, clean, crisp, and for $240,000. Then came the words that flipped everything. "I'll be paying in full. I'm here for the custom black-on-black GT model you have in the corner." Rick blinked, looked at the check, then at the name. "Malcolm B. Stroud?" He froze. For a few seconds, the entire dealership stood still. The kind of silence that feels loud. Rick slowly looked down at the check again, reading the name more carefully this time. Malcolm B. Stroud. It hit him like a punch to the gut. "You're that Malcolm Stroud?" Rick asked, his voice suddenly shaky. Malcolm simply nodded. "Yes, founder and CEO of Stroud Facility Services. We've been cleaning this building for over 7 years. Your office on the second floor? My team disinfects. Your desk every Thursday night." Rick's face turned red. The receptionist's jaw dropped. Another salesman, who had chuckled earlier, awkwardly stepped back. Malcolm didn't gloat. He didn't raise his voice. His tone was calm, the kind that made people listen even harder. "You thought I was just a janitor." "And you were right," Malcolm said. "I am. I started as one. I still work as one. But I also signed paychecks for over 140 employees, run contracts across 6 cities, and negotiated a $1.2 million cleaning deal for a federal courthouse last month." Rick tried to laugh it off. "Mr. Stroud, I had no idea if I'd known." Malcolm cut him off gently. "That's the problem, Rick. You needed to know who I was in order to treat me with respect." Then he turned to the young receptionist, who had said little but didn't try to push him out. "I'd prefer to work with you on the sale, if that's all right." She nodded quickly, holding back tears. "Yes, sir, of course." As they walked to the office, people stepped out of the way. Rick stood frozen, the weight of what just happened sinking in. His pride had been shattered, not by an argument, but by the quiet presence of a man who walked with humility and strength. Malcolm didn't need to prove anything. The check, his presence, and his story had already done it. And by the time he signed the papers, everyone in that dealership knew. The most powerful man in the room wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing dignity. The paperwork was complete. The keys to the $240,000 black-on-black GT sat in a sleek leather folder on the desk. Malcolm smiled as the receptionist handed it to him with pride in her eyes. She'd never seen someone carry themselves like that, quiet, humble, yet completely unshakable. Meanwhile, Rick lingered just outside the office. He wasn't smiling. Anymore, he wasn't joking. He looked like a man who'd just seen his reflection for the first time, and didn't like what he saw. When Malcolm stepped out, Rick tried to compose himself. "Mr. Stroud, I owe you a sincere apology. I judged you, and I was wrong. Completely wrong." Malcolm looked at him for a long moment, then said, "Apology accepted. But here's the real question, what are you going to do with what you learned?" Rick swallowed hard. "Anything, I mean it." Malcolm reached into his wallet and pulled out a simple black business card. He handed it to Rick. "This is the number from my site supervisor," he said. "If you're serious, show up at our downtown contract job this Friday night, 1 shift, 8 hours. Gloves and boots provided, just you and the mop." Rick's eyes widened. "Wait, you want me to clean?" Malcolm finished for him. "No cameras. No headlines. Just a reminder of what respect really looks like. You don't have to do it. But if you do, you might walk out with something a college never taught you. Rick was stunned. For a moment, he looked like he might cry. Malcolm didn't stay too. See what he'd choose? He just nodded respectfully, walked out to the gleaming GT parked out front, and drove off slowly, not to show off but with quiet grace that echoed louder than any engine ever could. Because Malcolm never needed revenge. He just needed to remind the world that character is what separates real men from loud ones. The video wasn't planned. A teenage customer in the dealership had quietly filmed the moment Malcolm handed over. The check and the manager's expression shifted from arrogant to ashamed. That short, 45-second clip titled "Janitor Buys $240,000 Car After Being Disrespected" watched the manager's face. Hit YouTube the next morning. By sunset, it had 4 million views. Within 48 hours, it exploded to 17 million. Hashtags like "Humbled by Grace," "Respect the Uniform," and "Malcolm Stroud" trended across all platforms. TikTok creators reenacted the moment. Reaction videos popped up from influencers, pastors, veterans, entrepreneurs, even celebrities. Everyone had something to say about that look on the manager's face and the calm way Malcolm carried himself. People weren't just entertained, they were inspired. Comments flooded in. He didn't raise his voice, but he raised the bar. This is the definition of grace under pressure. I wish my kids could meet a man like Malcolm. That's who we should be celebrating. Journalists reached out, talk shows called. Malcolm declined every interview. Instead, he released a short written statement. My story isn't unique. Too many people are judged every day by what they wear, how they speak, or where they work. If one person treats the next with a little more respect because of what they saw, then I've already won. And Rick? He showed up to that night shift, quiet, nervous, and wearing borrowed boots. He mopped, wiped, and emptied trash alongside Malcolm's crew. No cameras, no praise. Just a humbling night of work he would never forget. One of Malcolm's employees later said, "He came in a manager and left a man." The dealership later posted a formal apology, along with a new internal policy, mandatory bias and respect training for all staff. And at the entrance, a framed quote now hangs on the wall, the same words that Malcolm once told Rick: "Respect doesn't start with wealth. It starts with how you treat the people who don't need to impress you." The story wasn't just about a car. It was about a man who walked in judged and walked out respected. Some people walk into a room and demand attention, but the ones who walk in with humility, they change hearts. If this story moved you, if it made you rethink how we judge others, don't let it end here. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button to show the world that respect still matters. Subscribe for more stories that remind us what real character looks like, because the world needs more Malcolms and fewer people who judge by a uniform. And remember, the next time you meet someone, don't ask what they do. Ask who they are.